Right, so today we have discussed about few topics. The first is related to Kosi river floods. Okay, Kosi we have discussed is a tributary of Ganga river largely flowing through the state of Bihar, okay, as we have seen. So, again this is the data from disaster in the devastating flood that we have seen in the recent year, this year and also before that. Okay, this is again to give what idea about how devastating is the flood as such. Okay, so 400 plus people were killed, 33 lakh people were affected, 50 worst flood in the year. If you look at in the northern India, it is seen in which river? It is in the Kosi river itself, right? So that is why rightly it is referred also as what? River of sorrow, okay, or sorrow of Bihar it is called as. Damodar was referred as sorrow of Bengal. Okay. Now in this case, the steps that was first of all, if you look at why Kosi flood occurred, simple, because this is example of which river? Himalayan rivers. Okay, and Himalayan rivers are also, Kosi is made up of 7 different streams. So it is not that one stream that is coming. These 7 different streams join together from the Sapt Kosi and then convert into Kosi. Because it is passing through Himalayas where you have weak rocks, okay, weak sedimentary rocks. What happens? The extent of erosion is very, very high. Higher the extent of erosion, higher is the amount of silt that is sediments basically you can say. And as the sediment is continuously carried by river, okay, river is flowing in a channel. So originally it is like this. If continuously silt will get deposited, what will happen? Right, overall we'll have first of all the depth of the river will decrease, okay, and thus even a small amount of rise in water will cause over spilling along its bank. Okay, so one you can say in one reason simply we have to explain what is the responsible factor for floods in Kosi, amount of sediment silt that it carries as such. Okay, and over centuries because of also river has been shifting its course. We have discussed in class also, okay, that in last 250 years river has shifted by 120 kilometers from the place where it used to flow earlier. So that clearly explains the amount of silt sediment it carries. Okay. Then other is the steps taken by government here. We have discussed about natural levee, okay, that is sediment is deposited on both sides of the river and then further it is strengthened by stone, rocks, cement and all that. So this is called as embankment, okay, embankments. So overall what will happen? Overall, before, geographers try to understand it like this, that if this is the river for example, okay, and if you build embankment on both sides, this will act as what? Flood protection barriers, because rivers will not be able to easily breach it, break it, and this mean area around these areas, villages that you have, farmland that you have will remain relatively safer as such. So to prevent flood, to protect settlement, largely embankments were created along the river Kosi as such. But reality was far from what they have imagined, because due to collection of this, the construction of this embankment, now what happens? River is continuously trapping silt. Okay, earlier suppose river is like this. During flood time, excess sediment will be deposited all around this area. Okay, so this area, this depth will not decrease drastically. Now what is going on? River bed is rising at much more faster rate because silt cannot go beyond the bank. All the silt will keep on accumulating where? On the river bed itself. And that means if the river depth increases, what will happen? Earlier this was depth of river, now depth of river has reduced. Slight increase in volume can cause easier breaching of the embankment as such. So overall we can say the construction of embankment provide us with short term protection, but at the same time it also provides, or it also is responsible for what we can call as long term vulnerability. Okay, so if today if you construct embankment, obviously for few years what will happen? You will be able to prevent flood, but as the time passes, silt will keep on depositing on the bottom of the river. Okay, as more and more silt getting deposited, what will happen in the future? Easily the river will be able to breach through, break through, and that is the reason why debate has basically rose about it. Now the research was conducted long time ago. In 1951, you have G.R. Garg committee. So it committee has warned against excessive embankment. Embankment, it said it is not a universal solution if you want to reduce floods. Embankment is a good measure, but it should only be done in those river. Which river? The committee said that the river that is flowing in the western part of India, not in the eastern part of India. Okay, so embankment basically in eastern part, as per this committee, disrupt natural function of river also. What is function of river? Okay, imagine this is a river. We have discussed that the most fertile part of India, where would you find? Indo-Gangetic plain. How is it possible? Because whenever flood occurs, the fertile sediments are deposited on both sides of river. If you construct embankment, what will happen? River will not be able to overspill along its bank. That means new fresh sediment deposition will not take place. That is one disruption. Second, river also erodes and creates its own path and all. Now by creating embankment, you are forcing it to flow in a narrow channel. This narrow channel keeps on getting what you can call as depth keeps on reducing because of silt deposition, and that is why not naturally what will happen, flood will take place in the future itself. Okay, so natural function of river, that is erosion and deposition, both of these functions are what you can say, embankment is basically disrupting it. So what is the recommendation? Those rivers which are known for what, high volume of sediment, like in Brahmaputra river also told you that it carries huge volume of sediment. Kosi river is carrying huge volume of sediment, right? So in these rivers, embankment should not be used as a solution. But again, state governments in Bihar and Assam went ahead and created a lot of embankment. Either Brahmaputra river you have or in the Kosi river that you have. So what is the result of this? Okay, result is floods were not controlled, and whenever floods occur, the floods were more devastating, more intense than earlier floods as such, right? So that is the point. Why eastern river face more risk? Simple, same thing. First of all, eastern Himalaya is geologically weak. That means rocks are soft sedimentary rocks, easily erodible in nature. Second, rainfall is higher where? Bay of Bengal branch of monsoon is entering from the eastern part of India. So eastern Himalaya receive heavier rainfall. Western Himalaya receive relatively lesser rainfall, right? So that is why such rivers are called as affluent river. Eastern Himalayan river like Ganga, Yamuna, Brahmaputra, Koshi, Ghagra, Gaggar. Affluent means what is the direction of flow of Ganga river system? From west to east. Now as the river keeps on moving toward east, what happens to water volume? Increases, because more and more rainfall is taking place where? In the eastern part as such. So that is why the embankment is not a right solution here, because these rivers are affluent. West Himalayan rivers committee recommended that you should construct embankment to protect people from flood, because these are more stable river. Why? Because in this kind of direction of flow, what will happen? The amount of rainfall keep on reducing as such, okay, especially in the Gujarat area, okay, Rajasthan area, further in the Pakistan region and all that. There you can construct embankment, it will not cause disruption as silt deposit is relatively lesser here. That means what is the key takeaway? Embankment is a solution, but only for those rivers which are carrying lesser volume of silt, such as West Himalayan river. East Himalayan rivers, embankment is not a right approach, okay. So should we still build embankment? If the question is asked, what are the expert concerned? First of all, same thing, rising silt, river level is above land in many times, water logging outside embankment. Now think, okay, this is suppose that you have the plain areas. Here you have constructed embankment, and this is the river bank as such, and this is the river flow like this, right? Now, if embankments are not present, heavy rainfall is one of the reason behind floods, right? So heavy rainfall is taking place in the plain areas, right? All the farmlands are getting continuously flooded by water. Earlier, what used to happen? This excess water was flowing in the river. That means this region where people are living used to dry up very fast. When the rainfall stops, water will go in the river, river will carry it, transport it to the sea as such. Now, due to the construction of embankment, what has happened? This water cannot go anymore. That means, what is going on? Water logging, okay, continuous, you have the accumulation of water in the areas outside of embankment as such. So you are not only preventing river water to enter in the plain areas, you are also preventing the extra water you have in the plain areas to enter in the river and be carried forward toward the sea as such. So that is the thing. Third point is that from economic perspective also experts argue that embankment construction is very capital intensive task. That means requirement of the cost, expenses is very, very high. Second, it's not that one time you construct embankment and let it be. Every few years, because continuously it is facing pressure from the water, heavy rainfall is going on, right? You need to have what? Maintenance and all that. That becomes sustainable, unsustainable, we can say, in the long terms as such. And overall, today, the this what you can call as the idea is that flooding worsens in the long term because of embankment construction in the eastern area. It does not to any extent reduces the flow, okay, flood as such. So that's the point. Now the question is that what should be the possible solutions beyond embankment? So first is we have to learn to live with floods, okay, not fight them. What it means? It means we have to take what kind of approach? Adaptation based approach. That means flood is reality. what we can do? We can use early warning system and we can evacuate people before heavy rainfall can flood this entire area. Second, we should have proper flood zoning so that we know that this area is continuously getting flooded. We should not construct any kind of houses, villages, urban areas and all that here. Okay, so that is the thing. Early warning system, same thing. Relocation of vulnerable population that we have discussed. Restore paleo channel. Paleo channel in this old channel. That means it refer to river currently is flowing in this channel, for example. Okay, but this is the older channel. Earlier, some tributary might be flowing through it. Now it has become completely dry as such, right? And now it has lost connection with this main river. So we can use our engineering and all that, and we can connect the main river with what? Paleo channel. So in case of excess water during flood time, what can happen? The water can flow through these paleo channels. So rather than flowing in the same area, it can distribute over a large area. The tendency of floods, the occurrence of flood, probability of flood will be lesser. So water distribution can be done here. Scientific desilting is another mechanism or step that we can take instead of constant raising of wall. Right, now what is the approach? This is the river, this is the height of embankment. Right, I told you silting will keep on happening. That means what will happen? Depth of river keep on reducing. So rather than removing the silt, what we do? Next year again we raise the height of embankment. Again silting will happen. What will happen? Depth will reduce. Again what we do? Raise the height of embankment. So rather than doing this, we should, what we should do? Draze. Okay, drazing means removing the salt from the river bed and all that. Okay, so that is the other solution or approach that can be taken. Key takeaway is embankment promises safety. Okay, this is true, but with which kind of river? Which is not laden with silt. With silt heavy rivers like Kosi, they often make floods more dangerous, more frequent. So siltation embankment is a solution, but it should be applied selectively as such based on the river system. Our policy should shift from flood control to flood resilience. Okay, prioritizing ecology, science and human safety. There are some concluding remarks you can write if question is asking the mains examination. Second is cyclone Ditwa was recently in news. This is again we have discussed in our class also that how naming of cyclone is done. Same thing we have to revise here, understanding the global naming system. So first of all, question comes that why we need to name cyclone. The reason is simple, because it is helpful in easy public communication. Many times in many countries what happens, several cyclones are taking place at the same time. So if you have to issue warning, if you have to carry out evacuation operation, who should be aware about evacuation, who should be aware about that what steps they have to take? They will only understand if they know that which cyclone you are talking about. Okay, so government cannot say cyclone A, B, C like this. They have to proper name. So East Coast people understand that yes, cyclones that are coming to us, that is what government is talking about. West Coast people can understand that okay, cyclone is coming toward us, that is what government is talking about as well. So easy public communication and the raising of alert. Second, it avoid confusion same between multiple storms that develop. Helps in quick disaster management as such, because also for the government departments, orders can be issued related to this cyclone, these areas have to be evacuated, okay, or alert has to be issued. So quick decision making and overall reduces panic and faster communication. Same thing it is there overall. That is the reason. Now, who is naming the cyclone? We have discussed it is WMO, World Meteorological Organization. This is the parent organization. This is responsible for overseeing the naming all across the world. And it has regional organizations, regional bodies, regional branches. These regional branches are what we call as RMSC, Regional Meteorological Center as such. So these are the centers that maintains the list of names. Okay, what are the names that has to be assigned to the future cyclone as such? Names are assigned on a sequential basis. Simple. I think in the class I told you with the help of a chart. Okay, that here you have country A, country B, country C. All the names given by country A will be put in the row in front of it. Country B, whatever name it is giving, it will put in front of it. Now the first cyclone that will take place, this is the name assigned to cyclone. Next cyclone will be what? This one. Next cyclone will be what? This one. And you go all the way up to the end of column. The next cyclone will be again here. So going from how you're moving for naming the cyclone, column to column. Okay. So that is how we arrange the names and the naming of cyclone is done. Region wise, if you look, North Indian Ocean, where is the authority? Indian Meteorological Department, New Delhi is the regional head. So IMD submits all the names from India and collects names from different countries and then give it to RMC. RMC, they prepare the list and it is then further communicated to WMO. And based on each of the cyclone, what happens? Naming is assigned as such, right? In the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, you have in US, that is NHC, National Hurricane Center. In the Western Pacific, you have Typhoon Committee, that is under WMO plus SCARP. SCARP is UN body, Economic and Social Council of Asia Pacific. UN SCARP in last class also we have discussed. Australia, it is BOM, that is Bureau of Meteorology. In Southern Indian Ocean, it is the Meteo France, because Mauritius and nearby you have Reunion Island, that is under control of France. So Meteo France, that is Meteorological France, is the naming authority as such. You can refer it later as such. Overall, what you have to keep in mind from examination perspective, that in different ocean, the organization responsible for collection of name, preparation of list is what? Different. Finally, this list is compiled and given to RMC, and then it is compiled given to WMO. So they understand and have a comprehensive understanding of global cyclonic development. How names are done? Pre-approved list, I told you, name should be what? Short, because it is easier to pronounce, easier to communicate, unique in nature, okay. And third, it should be culturally relevant. This is also a term that is used here, okay. That means, for example, when we talk about India, okay, we have given name of cyclone like Vyom. Why? Because Vyom refer to sky. Why sky? Because sky is something that is relevant to our culture also. Sky is where tropical cyclones are forming. Yes, that is how we can understand. No political or religious name is allowed as such. And once used for several cyclone, after that name is retired. In case of Indian Ocean, this is not generally followed because we have so many countries and multiple names can be given by each country, right? So you will see in Indian Ocean, every cyclone has unique name. Repetition is very uncommon. In North Atlantic Ocean, you have few countries only, 3-4 countries you have. So what do? They keep on repeating the name. So one cyclone 2010, next after 3 years, the same name can be given to the next cyclone as such. So based on the number of countries, this procedure is follows. In India, what is the parent organization? IMD, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal. In Indian Ocean, we have discussed in the list 13 countries, 30 names. Total you have the set of 169 names. Once this list is exhausted, then only fresh list is prepared as such. Names are used alphabetically, countries basically, I told you. Okay, you have the arrangement of countries in the alphabetical order as such. Okay, contributor countries, again India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Oman, Thailand, Maldives, etc. These are the countries in the Indian Ocean, right? That is the second point. Third is related to INS Taragiri, a new naval ship that is being commissioned into the Indian Navy. It is the 4th ship of Nilgiri class. What kind of ship it is? Frigate ship. Okay, so frigate, many frigates we have discussed in earlier classes, Udayagiri and all that. So the 4th ship of Nilgiri class, called as Taragiri, has been recently inducted in the Indian Navy. Okay, it will overall strengthen blue water naval power. Blue water, brown water term we have discussed. Blue water refer to deep ocean. Brown water refer to coastal area as such. Okay, so coastal zones. So blue water naval power. Frigates will, like last class we have discussed, okay, INS Mahe, that is kind of ship, okay, coastal area, that means where you have the less depth of water. This is for the deep ocean ventures. So blue water capability. What is Taragiri? Again, 4th Nilgiri class frigate. This name of project is very important. Under project 17A, these Nilgiri class ships are being commissioned as such. This particular ship is developed by Mazgaon Dock building, Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited, that you have in Maharashtra as such. MDL in the short we have discussed, designed by Indian Navy WDB, that is Warship Design Bureau. Rather than remembering Warship Design Bureau, what is the focus you should have from prelims perspective? Design is indigenous. Okay, that is the point you have to keep in mind. Legacy continues. Earlier also we have one ship called as Taragiri that was retired in year 2013. Okay, so since it is retired, now again we have given same name to this particular new ship that has to be built under project 17A. Total 7 frigate has to be built. Here it. Under this project 17A, total we have plan of building up 7 stealth frigate. The stealth technology we have discussed before also. Stealth refer to identification of ship becomes difficult. Okay, the radar signature is very low. That means enemy ships will have difficulty in identifying the location of these ship as such. Okay, so they are like kind of hidden, camouflaged. Okay, we can say. So 7 stealth frigate as per plan. This is successor to the earlier frigate that you had called as Shivalik class. So Shivalik class is being succeeded by the Nilgiri class. Total, how many ships will be built here? 7. 4 will be built by MDL, Majgaon Dockyard Limited, we have discussed. 3 will be built by Garden Research Shipyard Limited Enterprise, that is in Kolkata. 4 ships will be built in Maharashtra, Mumbai, 3 will be built in GREC by Kolkata. As such, integrated construction is going on for the faster delivery. Okay, so that is the point here. So Project 17A, just name you have to keep in mind. Indigenization mission role, again in the last class IAS Mahe also told you 80% of systems were indigenous. Here also you can see 75% of system installed on the ship, frigate ship, is indigenous nature. And these are basically, indigenous means what? It's not that any one company is constructing and manufacturing all the parts. There is tender contract given to multiple different countries, companies as such. So you talk about the complex equipment, motor and everything, that is manufactured by large big company having a lot of capabilities. A small components to talk about, they are given to micro, small, medium enterprises and all that. So large number of Indian companies themselves, okay, have been given their contract and tenders, and collectively if you combine all of these systems, you can say 75% of component systems are built in India itself. 25% we have imported from different countries as such. Same thing built for blue water mission, that means high sea. What kind of warfare it can participate in? Anti-air warfare. Anti-air means it can neutralize any threat that is coming from aerial route. That means missile. Okay, that is it can neutralize, or aircrafts it can neutralize. Anti-surface warfare. Surface warfare means any threat that is coming on the ocean surface, sea surface, like it can attack other ships, okay, of the enemy countries and all that. So anti-air warfare, it can utilize threat from the air. Anti-surface warfare, it can utilize threat on the surface, and at the same time it is also capable of what? Anti-submarine warfare. That means it has the tubes through which it can launch torpedo and can destroy submarines and all. So 3 categories of warfare, 3 category of target it can destroy. Propulsion and technology wise, if you look, CODOG, that is combined diesel and gas turbine. Okay, both diesel and natural gas is used to rotate the turbine, and thus it is called as CODOG propulsion. All the frigate being developed under the Nilgiri class have the same propulsion system as such. Okay, CODOG, combined diesel plus gas. It drives controllable pitch propeller. Propeller that we have installed here, propeller is controllable in such a manner, simply if you try to understand what it means, is that if the ship has to change its direction, what happens many times, even if you are driving car or bike, if you are changing your direction, speed becomes low. Here, through controllable pitch propeller, it can be ensured that the speed remains constant, even when the ship is changing its direction, orientation and all that. That is the advantage of controllable pitch propeller. Direction is changed without compromising the speed of the ship. Okay, and that is very important, this development in this entire system. Plus, managed by the computer system, integrated platform, you have management system for monitoring of the operations, not very important. But 2 things from here you have to take away: CODOG propulsion and controllable pitch propeller. Weapons and sensor suite, not that important, but since you are talking about this, what does it contain? Long range surface to air missile. Then Barak 8, jointly developed by India and which country? Israel. BrahMos, jointly developed by India and Russia. That is also surface to air missile, SAM. Then we have torpedo, as I told you. Why? To destroy submarines. Okay, anti-submarine warfare. Okay, IRL, it's this, I'm foreign name. IRL, I'll tell you. Okay, then we have multi-mission radar. Hamsa radar is something. Hamsa radar. New generation Hamsa radar and sonar has been installed here. Sakti electronic warfare, it can also be participating in. Surveillance radar is also there, so it can surveil or carry out reconnaissance operation in the entire area so that no enemy aircraft is able to enter here. Okay. So overall, what you can say, versatile and advanced frontline frigate we have developed for the Indian Navy. That is the overall objective as far as the this particular frigate is concerned. Then coming to the next related to Navy itself, recently Indian Navy has come up with Indian Maritime Doctrine 2025 that was launched on the 4th of December. 4th of December every year we celebrate as what? Indian Navy Day. Okay, so on the 4th of December, on the occasion of Indian Navy Day, we have launched Indian Maritime Doctrine 2025. It overall will strengthen India's ocean power. Okay, so what are the key features of this maritime doctrine? So why is same thing? Chief of Naval Staff released Indian Maritime Doctrine, right? Aligns with India's long-term maritime strategy. Priority given is in which ocean? Indian Pacific Ocean, collectively also called as Indo-Pacific Ocean. Okay, that is where we are largely concerned about. because our threat is coming from Pacific Ocean, China, okay, or Indian Ocean, Pakistan. Okay, that is why Atlantic Ocean, why we are not worried about. We do not have any enemy in those oceans as such. The same thing, Indian Navy Day every year on 4th of December, as we have discussed. Why do we celebrate Indian Navy Day? If a question is asked, it is to commemorate 1971 war, is when we launched an operation called as Operation Trident, where we used multiple ships to attack Karachi port or harbor of Pakistan, right? So it was a kind of surprise attack. Pakistan did not see it coming. So its attack was so devastating in nature that it crippled the entire Pakistani Navy, and we ensured that we did not face any threat from Pakistan Navy in the coming days by the time we were able to carry out what you can call as our operation in the Bangladesh, such for liberation of Bangladesh. So highlight Operation Trident. Which are the missile boats used? No need to remember the name, but Nipat, Nirghat and Veer. These were the three major missile boats that were used, and it was provided back and support by Kilton, Kachchal and INS Poshak as such. So 6 ships were involved here, and it also is very important because in the entire history it marks the first naval offensive of India where we have used anti-ship missiles as such. Okay, and now you understand why Trident is the term we are using. Trident means, what is Trident? Okay, Trishul. How many ships we are using? 3 ships. Okay, so 3 ships, that is why the term used is Trident. We attacked Karachi harbor using 3 ships as such. Right? Navy Day 2025, sometime themes they are asking in the prelims examination these days. This is a theme that you can keep in mind. Combat, you should actually 2-3 times if you go through this theme, you do not have to remember it. Okay, when you see in the options given, you will be able to, and this, right, tick mark it, that yeah, this was the theme. So combat ready, cohesive, credible and Atmanirbhar. If you cannot remember anything, at least remember this point. Okay, this is logically also understandable that we are focusing more on indigenization, self-reliance, especially in defense sector, safeguarding the seas for a Viksit Samriddh Bharat. Okay, as such, that is the overall theme as far as this particular year is concerned. Now coming to what we have done, we have released Maritime Doctrine. So what is the Indian Maritime Doctrine 2025? First of all, this is a very important document because it guides how Indian Navy will function in the coming years, either in the case of peace or in the case of war as such, right? That is why apex means most important, topmost guiding booklet or document for the Indian Navy as such. What it defines? Planning, capability creation, how we'll carry out operation conduit and all that we can see. Earlier many times we have created 2004, 9, 15 and recently we have updated it in 2025. Question like this can be asked in prelims, that for the first time in history Indian Navy has come up with a maritime doctrine. True or false? False. Okay, we have doctrine from earlier also, we have just updated it, okay, added some new salient points and all that. What is the key strategic recognition that we have to keep in mind here? So in this doctrine for the first time we have identified that we are in a state of what? No war, no peace, right? For now, if talk about, we cannot say that India is in peace or at peace with its neighbor country or enemy country as such. We have a situation where the non-conventional threats still exist. We have not been able to resolve our dispute. Boundary dispute with China, with Pakistan still is ongoing as such. We cannot say that we are what? In a state of peace. At the same time, we are not facing attacks along the border. So we can say that we have not have war-like situation, but still it is not no war-like situation. No war, no peace simply means that unless and until you resolve or you dispute, you will not have any permanent peace. That means you will be in which kind of state? No war, no peace. It means that you have to be all time ready, as you saw in the case of Operation Sindoor also, right? Second is focus on which kind of warfare? Grey zone and hybrid warfare. Grey zone warfare means unconventional warfare. Like for example, Pahalgam terrorist attack. Example of which kind of warfare? Grey zone warfare. Grey zone is where country can simply say that I was not involved here. As Pakistan did. Pakistan clearly denied any responsibility and role in what? Pahalgam attack as such. So due to this, it creates a problem. India cannot carry out full scale war. Okay, because Pakistan is denying responsibility as such. That is what we call as grey zone. Okay, it's not clear involvement of country. Hybrid means not using only army, military and all that to carry out attack, using different form. Like Pakistan uses what? Terrorism as a state tool. So example, which kind of warfare? Hybrid warfare, right? Recognizes increasing maritime competition. Indo-Pacific region, we know that China is continuously building new capabilities. They are constructing their own new aircraft carriers. A lot of submarines they have set up in the recent years. So taking these into consideration, we have recognized the importance of Indo-Pacific changes also. New modernization features we have brought in. That means we have to focus more on what? Jointness of tri-services, Army, Air Force and Navy, right? Emphasize on new dimensions of warfare like space-based warfare. Use of space means satellite technology, for example, right? Cyber warfare, okay, cognitive warfare, psychological warfare also we can say in one way. Promotes unmanned autonomous system. This is something that we are seeing every year, every time these days, because in the Operation Sindoor and after that what followed, we have seen what? It is not that conventional war ensued. You do not have the movement of the militaries into each other's border. Rather, what moved? It was the drones. Okay, so any strategy that we build today should be definitely built around understanding the use of UAVs and all that. Doctrinal significance is simply support India's vision of maritime driven growth and security. Overall, such doctrine also emphasized that Indian Navy, like if you go back in the older wars, old wars were largely fought where? On land, whether it is 1962, 1965, 1971, 1999. Now things are changing because Pakistan is also developing its naval capabilities. China, if compared from 1962, it has developed its naval capability many times as such, and that is why it also clearly shifts a signal that Navy is not some peripheral forces, it is central force as such, plays a very important role in securing the interest of India. A strengthening of tri-service, same thing. Interoperability is something that is overall required, and it is something in the case of special forces plus airborne ops. Okay, all the three, this wing of army have their own special forces. Para forces for the army, you have the Garud commandos for the air force, and you have Marcos for the navy. Okay, so there is also emphasis on these days that there should be a joint exercise conducted by all three security forces to better integrate their approach and all that. So that is about overall the Indian maritime doctrine as such. Okay, go through that major features. What are the definition? This new addition. That is what we have to focus upon. The next is the early closure of Antarctic ozone hole was in news, as we have seen in year 2025, which is considered as a milestone in global atmospheric recovery. You must have heard about ozone hole. What is ozone hole? Well, the thickness of ozone layer is very minimal, right? And due to this, what happened? What is the role and responsibility of ozone? Role of ozone: protect us from ultraviolet rays. So if ozone layer is thin, what will happen? UV rays will be able to reach the surface. It will cause a lot of damages, okay, to the humans, to the plants and all. So that's the point. Now, okay, what we are witnessing? Early closure. What is the Antarctic ozone hole? First of all, we know that in every winter season, we generally see thinning of ozone layer in which area? Polar areas, more specifically in the Antarctic region. Okay. Stratospheric ozone, we have discussed. Ozone is found in the stratosphere. 95% ozone, I told you, is good ozone in the stratosphere, 5% bad ozone in troposphere. So over the Antarctican landmass, every year in the winter we see thinning of ozone layer in the stratosphere layer of atmosphere, right? When does it occur? September to November. Yeah, we can call it as austral spring because in Australia it is spring season as such. Here it is a kind of autumn season, autumn winter season. When do we call that ozone hole has developed? Thickness of ozone is measured in a unit that is called as DU, Dobson unit. Okay, one Dobson unit is equal to 10 micrometer. Okay, that is the point here. That means 220 Dobson unit is 10 into 220 micrometers. Okay, so whatever comes, we understand like this. So whenever the ozone level becomes less than 220 DU, thickness if we talk about, we can say that what has developed? Ozone hole has developed. Up to 220 DU, we do not use the term ozone hole. Only when the thickness reduces, becomes less than 220 DU, we call that ozone hole has developed here. First such hole was reported when? In year 1980s, when satellite was monitoring the Antarctic region, plus from ground also we are measuring the value, this intensity of ultraviolet radiation and all that. This particular new research that we are carrying out, this is also done by satellite, very important satellite called as Copernicus satellite. So current data, okay, the present data that we have received is from the French satellite. I think it's European Space Agency is also involved here, largely made by French. So Copernicus satellite, it has collected and gathered the recent data as such. Huh? That is what discussed. Why does the ozone hole form first of all in Antarctic? See, it's not about CFC like this. If you look at the planetary circulation, how planetary circulation occurs. You discuss about what? Ferrel cell, Hadley cell, polar cell like this. So imagine you are at the equator, you are releasing the GHG. It will not be limited to equatorial atmosphere. Okay, what will happen? With the movement of wind, whatever you release, it keeps on going from equator to poles as such. Okay, so that is the one way to understand this. Yeah, that is why it is not only in the equatorial tropical area will you see the thinning of the ozone layer. Now, why does ozone hole form in Antarctica? This we have to understand. So, first of all, around Antarctica we have discussed what do you have? Something called as polar vortex. Polar jet stream is a term that we have used basically there. Okay, I told you that around 60 degree, what do you see? All around the world you have the strong rotation of jet stream. That is also called as polar vortex as such. So, this polar vortex, what does it do? It does not permit this cold air of Antarctica to mix with the warm air from the subtropical region as such, okay, because it is acting as a kind of boundary as such. So overall, due to strong polar vortex, cold air remains trapped within which region? Polar region, that is Antarctic region as such. Mixing does not occur. And due to this, the temperature in the atmosphere keeps on decreasing. Okay, extreme cold develops here. It is in the extreme cold condition you have development of unique kind of clouds that is called as polar stratospheric clouds. Okay, so PSC, development of PSC we see largely because of the extreme cold like conditions as such. So we have to understand the role of PSC is very, very significant because PSC is responsible for triggering of reaction. Okay, in these clouds what happens? CFC you are releasing everywhere from the world. They keep on accumulating here, going here, and gradually what happens? You have ClO3 for example. Okay, that is what you are releasing here. Chlorofluorocarbons you are releasing here. So they keep on becoming part of what? Polar stratospheric clouds. So basically what happens? The polar stratospheric cloud has formed. It has provided what you can call as the term that we use generally is substrate, where these minerals, not minerals, where these gases, pollutants can get fixed overall. In the sunlight, spring, what happens? Sunlight returns. When the sunlight returns, what happens? They start to react as such. Under the presence of, if you remember, what we have discussed. Sunlight has photon. It is in the presence of photon, radiations that you have, what we see? From the ClO3, for example, chlorine will separate, oxygen will separate. This chlorine radical that is creating here, okay, it is reacting with what? Ozone. What it is forming again? ClO plus O2. What did it do? Chlorine radical, it destroyed oxygen by forming ClO plus oxygen as such. Again it separates. What will happen? New chlorine. Again this chlorine will attack other ozone molecule. That means a single chlorine atom can cause dissociation of multiple ozone molecules. It's not that one single chlorine will cause one ozone destruction. Otherwise, it will not be too much problem. Okay, it is that one single chlorine radical, super radical we can call it, can destroy multiple number of ozone atoms, and that is why okay, the chlorofluorocarbons, chlorine, fluorine, bromine, all of these are very dangerous and threaten the development. Threaten the ozone layer formation as such. Now, on a positive note, what we have witnessed, that ozone hole that used to develop in the early years, 80s, 90s, 2000s, what we are seeing that level of ozone layer has begun to rise again. Thickness has again begun to become normal as such. So in one way we can say ozone layer has become to close. Okay. Why? Warming of stratosphere, because cold stratosphere create polar stratospheric cloud. Polar stratospheric cloud provides substrate for ClO and all these molecules, which releases chlorine, bromine, fluorine and causes ozone destruction. So stratosphere is warming, polar clouds are disappearing, stratospheric cloud, and it means that if nothing is destroying ozone layer, under the presence of ultraviolet rays, the oxygen molecule, oxygen atom will keep on forming what? Ozone molecule. So ozone molecule is continuously forming and nothing is destroying, okay, nothing is destroying ozone. That is why we can say thickness, okay, to some extent is coming back to normal as such. Okay, so mixing is going on also. Ozone rich air is coming from different areas and also are trying to overall fill the ozone layer. 2025, what we have witnessed, that closure has happened much more earlier as such as compared to the early years, and this is what scientists say is example of or indicator of recovery. Okay, that whatever we had witnessed in the 1980s, that situation is something that has ended. Okay, so ozone hole, ozone layer of our planet, our atmosphere is returning back to normal as such. Now, why did 2025 closure happen early? Two reasons, three reasons we can give here. First, in 1973, we brought up what we call as Montreal Protocol under Vienna Convention, where we have reduced the overall emission of chlorofluorocarbons across the entire globe. Okay, because all the major polluting countries, emitting countries are member of this particular convention as such. Right. So CSE production, for example, we were using this in what? What was the use of CFC? Refrigeration purposes. Okay, so we have found substitute as such. HFC began to be used instead of CFC. Now we are also changing it and we are using some different chemicals, right? Second, decline in the stratospheric chlorine and bromine because warming of stratosphere. And third, same temperature, wind patterns are also supporting it as such. Okay, so mainly we can say what is the main reason why recovery is going on. If you have to identify one reason, that will be simple: the success of Montreal Protocol. For 30 years continuously we are implementing the provisions of this protocol, right? And more chemicals have been brought into it. So the success of Montreal Protocol is the most important factor behind it, right? Significance of closure is simple. It is the strongest sign of recovery of long-term ozone. We expect that ozone hole developed in which years? Pre-1980s, 70s, 80s we can say overall. And by 2040, as per the recent estimate, it should become what? Healthier as it was before, pre-1980 levels. By 2045, we will expect that how Antarctic hole has recovered, Arctic hole will also recover. Okay, because polar ozone holes we are talking about. Antarctic full recovery will take place when? 2066 as such. So reduced UV exposure, what is the benefit? Simple. If you have healthy ozone layer in the atmosphere, ultraviolet radiation will be trapped, okay, in the stratosphere. So you will be exposed to lesser amount or intensity of UV. Potential impact on southern hemisphere jet stream also we can see from here, but this is area to further study as such. Okay, how atmospheric jet stream and how ozone layer depletion are related as such. Okay, how one will impact the other, we have to still analyze this and understand this, right? So these are some of the topics we have to understand. Okay, so ozone layer depletion success, actually many times earlier we have also seen that since we implemented Montreal Protocol, and actually it is considered as the most successful climate based intervention that we have achieved, okay, at the global scale, at the collective scale as such. So that is the reason why we are seeing this recovery. Now look at one question: which of the following is not a feature of Indian maritime doctrine 2025? Okay, just to briefly revise. See, we have discussed that we have included both cyber domain and the space domain in the maritime strategy. Okay, because if you have not read it directly, if you're looking at examination, you might think, okay, that we are talking about naval warfare, navy and all that. We should not include space and cyber. Okay, so that will be incorrect. Even we are talking about Indian Navy or naval warfare, we are including cyber and space. Second is with reference to Project 17A frigates, consider the following statement: all 7 ships, right? The simple. What is the correct option? Right, this is we have discussed it is wrong because 4 will be only built by MDL, other 3 will be built by, right, so that's the point. 2. Then about the Kosi River, the recent flooding of Kosi River despite embankment is primarily due to which factor? What is the correct option? Himalayan rivers being mainly influent in nature. Influent means water volume decreases as it flows further. Yeah, it is incorrect or correct? This is incorrect. Affluent is the term that we have used. What is the correct option? River is migrating further westward. It is bringing those area also under its flood. Second, heavy silt deposition that causes what? Reduction in the depth of river. Okay, and thus it can easily overspill along its bank. If you look at last, the importance, Kosi flood is very important topic both from prelims perspective as well as mains perspective, because river based questions they can ask flood management is part of disaster management. Okay, flooding is part of disaster management and all. So question can be asked from here, disaster management. River system based questions can be asked about the Kosi river. Direct river based question can be asked. Okay, Kosi river is tributary of which of the river? That will be much easier. Okay, they can ask like sequence based. Okay, 4 rivers, what is the correct sequence, right? So Kosi. Ozone hole, again very important, directly related to your syllabus. Environment you have to study about in the climate change, ozone layer depletion. You have a separate dedicated topic or chapter, we can say. Also, because climate change is one of the favorite topic of UPSC these days. Okay, anything new happens, significant happens, generally frame question both in prelims or mains examination. So go through it properly, understand the concept and all. Cyclone naming, again important, because already we have evidence. In year 2014, they have directly asked this question. Okay, discuss the process of naming of cyclones around the world. And these days we are seeing that whatever questions they have asked earlier in the mains examination, they are repeating in the prelims examination. So maybe next year question can be asked about naming of cyclone. 4 statement would be given, you have to find which is the correct one, which is the incorrect one, right? So naming of cyclone. Maritime doctrine, not that important. Simple facts, few facts are there that you have to keep in mind from prelims perspective. Taragiri, again I told you, in any ship that is inducted in Indian Navy, only two things you have to keep in mind. What kind of ship it is, okay, whether it is frigate, whether it is the what you can call as destroyer, right, whether it is a stealth frigate, whether it is the aircraft carrier and all that. And apart from that, you can use these as a pointer in mains examination when you talk about the steps we have taken to strengthen our security, right, coastal security, the steps we have taken to increase our dependence, self-dependency in the defense sector and all that. So you can write, okay, we have instituted project 17A where we are building most of the stealth frigate ship using indigenous systems, indigenous component and all that. So that is how we can use this in a mains as a pointer, as a example. Right? So that is about this particular week.